Hi everyone, welcome to GoLocal Live. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for tuning in this Thursday afternoon here with us in downtown Providence. Would like to welcome in John Paul. He is the Senior Manager for Traffic Safety at AAA. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Very important topic. Of course, road safety throughout the year is important. New data just showed for 2017, the U.S. hit a 10-year high for red light running deaths with 939 people killed in 2017. This is up 28% since 2012. Why are we seeing these numbers rise?
Yeah, I mean, it really has to do with more traffic on the road is certainly part of it. Maybe a little less respect for traffic rules. I commute about 100 miles round trip back and forth each way to work every day. And the amount of times I see people driving through stop signs, people driving through red lights, it's really incredible. And the other thing really is people know it's wrong, but people still do it. When we talk to people about it, they're like, they looked at all the numbers and they go, yeah, you shouldn't drive through a red light, but 1 in 3 admitted in the last 30 days they did it.
Oh my goodness.
So, you kind of look at that. And part of it too is, we hate to say we want to educate people about red lights, but on the other hand, there are some things you can do. And when you see a light go from green to yellow, it doesn't mean speed up and try to go through it before it turns red. And unfortunately, that's what happens a lot of times, and that's where the crashes happen.
And so those alarming numbers, as you said, that 1 out of 3 who admit to having done it. Do you think it's just not really being cognizant of the consequences? Like, nothing will happen, I'll just run the red light. 939 deaths in 2017. I mean, AAA, you're out there every day. I mean, driving home, the need for safe driving, but I mean, you're putting your life in peril, you're putting other people's lives in peril.
You really are. It's really 2 deaths per day on average, a little bit more than 2 per day on average. And you think about that, and it's all because someone chose to go through a red light. And this is something that can really be truly eliminated if people just followed the rules of the road. And part of it is really looking at what happens, and even to the point of, we try to tell people, and we do AAA, we do these classes called driver improvement classes. They're really designed for older folks, over the age of 55. They can get an insurance discount if they take our class.
Okay.
But really what we do is we try to just, think about some of the basics. And some of them are, you're sitting at a light, it's red, it goes from red to green. You don't have to be, you don't have to be a drag racer when the light turns green. Wait a second, take a breath, and you'll be surprised how many people try to squeeze through that red light going in the other direction.
You mentioned a great point. I do it all the time, especially known intersections and you see them go through and you're like, wow, that could have been me in that middle of that intersection.
Right. If you're somebody who has to jump on the gas as soon as the light turns green.
Don't do it.
Yeah, don't do it, because somebody's coming through the red light.
Yeah.
And in other words, 1 out of 3 admitted doing it in the last 30 days. Well, that one could have been the person coming the other way. So it really is. It can be easily fixed, and we just need to really help educate people and say, okay, it's a dangerous situation. Yeah, maybe you're not going to get hurt, but maybe you are. And it's not just the driver of the car, it's pedestrians, it's bike riders who are maybe or maybe not following the rules of the road, but you as a driver in the car need to take full responsibility. And like I said, I drive a lot. There's one road that I drive through to get onto the highway in the morning. There's 13 crosswalks. There's probably 5 intersections that have traffic lights on them. And I can count every day, people don't stop for people in the crosswalks. People take a chance on the red light, and and then there's the people who just blatantly look around. They're sitting at the red light. They don't see a police officer, and they go, "Oh, I'll just go through it." It's a violation, and it's a dangerous violation. Somebody who drives 5 miles over the speed limit, yeah, they're violating the law. Is anything really bad going to happen? Probably not. Going through a red light when somebody else expects they can drive in the other direction safely, it's not a good idea. It's outright dangerous.
So maybe a couple things to keep in mind if you are waiting at a light, the light turns green, and maybe you're a couple cars behind. Maybe don't lay on the horn right 2 seconds as the light turns green, because perhaps that person in front of you is taking that pause at that red light as well. Now, we had one of your colleagues on not too long ago. Diana was in talking about the Rhode Island Waves campaign, which again, being at those intersections, really having that cognition of everything that's around you, recognizing who might be crossing and acknowledging them. The way from the driver, the recognition from the person who's looking across as well. This had been started in Newport. Now
Yep.
there's a statewide
Yep.
campaign to do it as well, to really get folks to be aware of their surroundings. So you mentioned that, take that pause. Again, what you can take in your hand is A, not running the red light, and then B, giving that second or two to allow, once the light has turned green, for anybody who might be going through it. Let's talk a little bit about red light cameras. We had an
Okay.
interesting conversation before coming in here with states' utilizations of it, between Rhode Island having it, Massachusetts not. AAA's position, they're effective within a comprehensive approach to traffic control.
Right, right. If, we truly believe that traffic enforcement is done best with education and actual enforcement with police officers. But in areas that are dangerous situations that everything else has been tried, well then try the red light camera. And red light cameras are pretty effective once people realize they're there. It's not like the signs you see that tell you how many miles an hour you're going. Those, after 2 or 3 days, people just start to ignore them. But the red light camera, if somebody knows they're going to get a ticket
Yes.
going through the red light, that certainly is a deterrent to going through that red light. And the same thing with speeding in certain areas, same idea. But again, we believe that, okay, let's look at 5 different areas, for instance, and let's try to do it without automation. Because we also know a lot of good policing happens when there's a police officer on the street and they're doing their job. So we don't want to take that away from them either. So last ditch effort, if it doesn't work, put the camera in. That's going to help. That's going to make the intersection safer. But it's one of the tools you can use to try to improve road safety.
And we hit a few points here about obviously the running of red light cameras. How much of a role does distracted driving continue to play, especially as we're told you can't be on your phones, but yet people persist?
Yeah, they really do, and you have to look at all that. And when you look down for just 2 seconds, the chance of getting into a crash just jumps exponentially. So we want people to stay focused. We want people to 2 eyes on the road, 2 hands on the wheel, pay attention to what you're doing, pay attention when you're behind the wheel. And that's what's going to make not just you a safe driver, it's going to improve safety all the way around. And if we don't crash into each other, our insurance rates stay lower. That's a good thing. It's a win for everyone when everyone drives safely.
Well, I wanted to, again, have you in to raise these points again. Really kind of shocking numbers to say that the U.S. is at a 10-year high for red light running deaths, and there are implications. So again, if you're thinking about running that red light, just don't do it.
Don't do it. And the same thing when you come up to an intersection and you're driving down the street and you look and you see the light's been green for a long time, anticipate it's going to turn yellow. Get ready. Whenever you take your eyes off the road in front of you, get your foot sort of hovering over the brake pedal, because that way if something happens and you need to respond quickly, your foot's already there. You're going to save a second. And at 60 miles an hour, for instance, you're driving almost 90 feet a second. Do the math and slow it down. Try to be as safe as you can on the road. That's the bottom line.
And one of the other tips too, again, approaching an intersection, if it's been green, perhaps that looking at your speed, tapping on that brake to let folks know behind you that there's a potential for a stop coming up as well. You see that a lot on the highways. Do you think folks really know to do this at intersections?
They probably don't. Some probably do, and a lot of times I'll get calls at work pretty regularly, and somebody will say, well, I drove into the car in front of me, it was their fault. Well, it wasn't their fault. It was your fault because you were following too closely and you weren't paying attention. So sometimes, if you're driving down the road and you see the light starting to turn green and you look in your rearview mirror and you see the person looking down at their phone, tap your brakes a couple times, maybe it will catch their attention and it will give you just that amount of a warning so you can stop safely and the person behind you can stop safely. Makes a lot of sense.
Well, it's great to get some reminders about safe driving tips, because I think a few of us are a few years away from that 15, 16 years old of age of being there in driver's ed, but especially as we approach Labor Day weekend and the school year coming up in particular. If you missed it, GoLocal ran AAA's tips for safe driving throughout the school year as well. Just that constant reminder for safe driving, because there are ramifications with the U.S. at that 10-year high for red light running, and AAA's looking to make that number go down.
Go down. School's open, drive safely. That's what we've been saying for years.
Okay, if you're traveling this weekend, drive safely. Keep that in mind, both this weekend and throughout the year. And I'd like to thank you, John Paul, for coming in today
Certainly.
from AAA. Thank you for watching. Again, very important information here on GoLocal Live. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow, again, before the Labor Day weekend. But in the meantime, find us on GoLocalProb.com. Find us on Facebook, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel.